Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. We're feeling good. We're feeling inspired today. Like I said before the cast, I'm not sure if we're on the right Soren or on the hottest podcast on Wednesday. I'm not quite sure what it is, but we're feeling pretty good to be here, boys and girls.
Welcome back in, everybody. Welcome back in. It is the hottest day of the year. Let's
Best
go,
day
my
of the
man.
week,
Good to
boys
see
and
you
girls. Welcome to the show. Got my main man Steven Chad here. We've got a fun story and show for you guys today. Change the look of it a little bit. We're coming in hot. We're coming in spicy, boys and girls. We're ready to bring the absolute heat and thunder. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. Again, welcome to the show. Got a jam-packed show. We're going to go over 2024 top targets, okay, for the Gators coming up here. Got a great Corey Bender article that dropped, right? And then we're going to talk about the depth chart as well. Nick Del Toro gave us his thoughts and opinions. I want to talk about that, break that down a little bit, give us our thoughts. Then talk about coaches in year one already. I know it's only been a few months for these guys, but I think it's something to talk about. We talked about it a lot with Billy last year up against Crystal Ball. What guys are able to do in their first week, it's something that's important to kind of note. Then we're going to go into top 25, give you what we think should be the top 25. Not necessarily what we think is going to happen, but what we think should be the top 25. And then I think that's all we got in store for you guys today. But if anything else comes up, obviously we'll talk about it. We'll talk a little bit of Super Bowl. Not really too concerned about it. But without further ado, boys and girls, welcome to the stream. We've got Gator versus anybody. IB Max says hair wild and in charge. It's flowing, boys. You know what I'm saying? BB says, hi, top, the best daggum Gator channel on YouTube, daggum it. I love it, BB. Q Lean says, okay. What's up, baby? George, Gator versus anybody. F is Fanatics. What's up, guys? How we doing? Adrian, TK,
what's
Gator
up,
Nation. Trav, what's up, baby? Anthony.
Aldrew.
Gators play at 9. What's up, mama? Jordan, how we doing, baby? Scott, 0020, what up, baby? Johnny, welcome to the stream. Harrison, Whitfield, baby. Philly is definitely winning the Super Bowl. You think so, Harrison? You think so? Okay. Like your pick there, big guy. Like your pick. And Dominic Tudor, of course. As always, welcome to the stream. Matthew Walker, Jacob Spencer. Like it up. Love it up. Let's get it going. We're like 8 away from 11,000 subs. It's just the train that keeps on moving. You know what I'm saying? Hot and ready, boys. Hot
Love
and ready.
It. Let's
well,
get
boys,
after it.
You know, as you see here, we've got a little bit of a change. We're not gonna just go there. We're spicing up, boys. We're bringing some flames tonight. Okay, we're not playing games anymore. You hit 11,000 subs, you got to change it up a little bit. You know what I mean? We're a professional organization around here, boys and girls. We got 2024 top target recruits. Okay. Coming in hot and heavy. Who we think, look, these are going to be our next focus. Probably these guys that we would look to be committing here shortly. First, we've got Joseph Aneda, I believe it's pronounced. 3-star inside offensive lineman, 6'4", 280. I joke here as a little bit in the sense of that's tiny for what, typically Billy goes after, but he is a junior. This is a senior year. Hopefully he can put on about, 100 pounds to fit the need of the Florida's typical offensive lineman. But right now, according to On3, he's got an 81.8% projection to go to Florida. Miami is in there at 1.2%, so would be a big pull for us. Again, 3-star, 16th ranked in the country. Would be a huge depth add for us to get Joseph. But again, these are the top 5 targets that Florida is going to be focused on in the next coming days. Next, we have Kevin Levy, I believe is how it's pronounced. He's a 3-star athlete. Right now, NC State's kind of his big target. West Palm Beach is where he is from. But again, Florida is looking heavy at him. Followed by Jake Granaro. So this kid goes to Ponte Vedra, which is right down the road from us. This one I feel pretty good about. He's got Florida. On3 has Florida in second place behind NC State currently. He's a 27th ranked inside offensive lineman. He's 6'4", 280. That's right in the realm of what we're looking at here. Florida State's also on the list, Steve, for you, so you know. But he's been to Florida already. He's already visited. Go ahead.
I said I heard that name for sure. He's been to campus a couple times.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, so good to see that. Obviously, with him being a Ponte Vedra kid, I would feel like we should have some success with that. But what do I know? Let's see who else we got here. The next we have is Jordan Pride. This is somebody that you and we talked about before. Right now, he's committed to Florida State, committed to you guys 2 years ago. Been committed for a while now. Safety, 6'1", 175. He's 4-star. He's a 12th ranked safety in the country. And he's been to Florida, I think, a few times. He's been in a ton of communication with Florida. This one feels like an automatic flip. Not an automatic, but it feels pretty good. Florida has not stopped and doesn't seem to be stopping on this kid with Jordan Pride. So I made a kind of a short video of like, hey, would I be excited about this? There's a couple W's here, what I would enjoy, simply due to the fact that we're stealing one from you guys after you guys kind of took us. There he is right there from IMG. So that would be a big pull for the Gators. They'll go ahead and get him. And then we've got 3-star defensive lineman Kendall Jackson, who goes to Buchholz. So Gainesville's in his backyard. He's a 98.8 to Florida. So, look, I think with recruiting, we're always looking at what's going to be next. We've got some studs coming in. These guys, I mean, outside of the offensive lineman kid from Ponte Vedra and Jordan Pride, kind of lower end 3-star guys. But look, we gotta build depth. We can't just quit on it. So, and I think with offensive linemen and defensive linemen, we've showed to kind of take those guys and move them to the next level. I think Florida and the coaching staff has done a great job developing players. So, look, I'm trusting in Billy. So they're seeing stuff. I've also noticed we've offered a few guys, and then they've kind of skyrocketed in their stock with other teams. So maybe Billy's got his pulse on things and ready to figure things out. So fired up for those 24 targets. I feel like we're going to be in a little bit of a lull period now, probably until April if I had to guess. Yeah.
It feels horrible.
Yeah, it sucks, but we're gonna, we'll get through it. We got March Madness coming up that we're gonna have a good time with. But I'm hoping we can probably get 1 or 2 more commits. But these kids are gonna be doing their visits, even though a lot of them visited last year during the games. So it's not like, and I think that's where Billy, had a hard time in 2023. He didn't have visits going at 2022. So 2023, again, I felt like we were behind the ball because he had to have them come during spring game and then obviously during the 2022 season. But with this class, they were all here last year, right? So they've been visiting. He's been talking to them. 2025 is already getting rocking and rolling, which I know last year we were talking about 2024 a little bit, and I feel like, it was too soon. And before you know it, we're already here. And I feel like the DJ Lagley was early conversation for 2024 this time last year, and look how that paid off. So good to see the 2025 news is heating up, even though it does feel really early, which it really is. It's still something to keep an eye on. So glad to see that the ball's still rolling there, boys.
Yeah, it's clearly never too early. I mean, you can't start a relationship too soon with these kids,
Sure.
especially with the current nature of the beast and how quickly things can change. Obviously, we saw that more times than we could count in this last recruiting cycle. So, look, I mean, the absolute worst thing that you do is you get a head start and you start building the relationship with not only the players, but for somebody like Billy, who's new at the university, but building relationships with the coaches as well. Because look, if after 2024 is going to roll around, then you've got your next recruiting cycle. That's where the relationship with these coaches, the high school coaches, that the college coaches have to build in order to keep that pipeline going. It only takes 1 or 2 bad scenarios where a high school coach and a college coach can get sour on one another, and that pipeline is turned off. So it's not just always about the actual recruits itself. It's about obviously being able to develop a relationship with the high school coaches across the state and across the country.
Absolutely. Getting Swamp. What's up, Soderquist? Welcome to the stream, baby. Ricky says he'd like to set up. That takes a lot to please Ricky, so that's good to hear. So yeah, really pumped up for these kids again. I think we're going to be in a lull period, so we got to pull what we can out of this 2024 recruiting news to see how we can do, right? So we'll see. We're going to get into the depth chart here first, but let's go over to coaches grade year 1 really quick here. Obviously, the ones that I kind of looked at, the ones that I was focused on were Dion, obviously, being the first one, and then Matt Rule, and then Luke Fickell. Those guys, to me, in my opinion, seem to be, the big ones right now that everybody's talking about. So give me your thoughts, Steve. How are we ranking these guys? Who's your top? How do you feel they're performing thus far? It's early. I know it's early, but look, you don't have time to waste.
Sure.
Go ahead.
No, I think, look, I mean, it's difficult to get in there and kind of like what Billy went through last year, right? Like, how do you make a lot of traction? How do you get a lot of bang for your buck in this time of year, right? Like, I like what Luke Fickell's doing out in Wisconsin. He's already been a Midwestern guy. He was the coach there at Ohio State for a little while, moved on to Cincinnati, had some success there that you could at least say for Cincinnati standards, getting them to a playoff. So I like what he's done. Matt Rule, I think that's going to be like the jury's going to be out. That's a very difficult rebuild that Nebraska has on its hands. I like what he's done so far, but man, you're talking about a very unfertile recruiting ground. You're talking about having to really just get the national standard of that brand back in place. And I think for what Luke Fickell has up against, he's up against in Wisconsin versus what Matt Rule is up against in Nebraska, I think Luke Fickell has a much easier job. I don't know how you can say, and I know everybody's going to hate this, I don't know how you can say that Dion hasn't done an amazing job talking about getting into the top 25 in total recruiting rankings when Colorado wasn't on the radar at all, what he was able to do in the portal. I know folks are getting tired of hearing his name, but gosh, I mean, how could you have asked for more in such a short period of time? And then I'm going to throw one out there, and I think we'll see kind of how this one goes. But Hugh Freeze down
Hugh
in
Freeze
Auburn.
I knew I was forgetting somebody. Thank you, Steve.
I really don't like the guy. I'll be completely honest with you. I really don't like the guy. He's been such a skis ball at every university and every school that he's coached for. He's had a number of recruiting violations. He's been involved in, the cell phone burner phones with hookers when he was at Ole Miss. I don't know, man. Something about the guy himself I'm not a huge fan of. We'll see how it plays out in Auburn, but he's obviously made a pretty big splash there.
He finished above Colorado in the portal this year.
Yeah, he did. He made a big splash. Again, I mean, it was a lot to do in a very short amount of time, and I think he did pretty well. So, unfortunately, because I don't like him.
So, give me the grades. Give me the grades for the 4.
So I'll go A for Fickell. I'm going to go A minus for. Yeah, I'm going to go. Well, I mean, I like what he's done out there, and I'm going to go A for Dion. I'll go B plus for Hugh Freeze, and I'm going to go just a B so far for Matt Rule. I mean, look, I've got some others out there who I think have just done an absolutely blah job. And Dillingham, who went to Arizona State, he was our offensive coordinator at Florida State, went out to Oregon. He hasn't really done a whole lot since he got there. Not super impressed with that. There's a couple of other guys out there that just really didn't grab my eye. Trent Dilfer, by the way, did you know he's back in college? He's coaching at Alabama Birmingham. I did not know that.
Okay, so got a couple A's, got a couple B's in there. So obviously, like for me, look, I forgot about Hugh Freeze. I'm glad you reminded me. So I was looking at it actually here. So I remember when I was actually talking about Auburn, they were horrible in recruiting. And they ended up finishing 17th for this year, and they finished 3rd or 4th in the transfer portal. He's been silent but deadly in Auburn, and I think they already are off to a hot start in 2024. I think they've already had their quarterback in 2024 already. Yeah, they're ranked 20th, 3 commits, which is big for Auburn. I mean, Auburn has been MIA for recruiting over the last few years. I remember I made their video of kind of where their program was. And look, I think Hugh Freeze has done a pretty damn bang-up job, especially going into the situation that was happening at Auburn, with especially being in the same state as Alabama. It's not easy. I got to give him an A, if not an A+, to be honest with you, for Hugh Freeze. I know you don't like the guy, but
okay.
All things considered, the program that he walked into, what's expected from an SEC program, I think he's done a phenomenal job year one to be able to come. I felt like he came in. I mean, he came in at kind of about a normal time, the same thing as Billy did, but made some splashes early. Yep. Obviously, Dion, for me, it's an A+. Crush the transfer portal, make a lot of moves, and you're already off to a hot start for 2024 recruiting. Your hat's on almost every table right now. Now you got to close some guys, right? But you can't look, whether you hate the guy, love the guy, or whatever. You have to be able to sit here and have a level head and like, yeah, you're right. That's a good option there. As for Rule, I got to give him probably a B+, A-. I was taking a look. He hasn't done much for 2024 recruiting, which is, to me, I mean, these other coaches have already started. Wisconsin's got 3 commits already. Now, look, those guys could have been committed, but I feel like he should probably have been getting the ball moving a little bit faster. Didn't do as well in the portal as Wisconsin did, and I think he's been talking a lot. And I think that's why we're even thinking about it, because he has been, he's been on the news kind of ranting and raving and been in front of everybody's faces, but I haven't seen a lot of production just yet. And I think with you being in Nebraska, you kind of it's a better situation in my opinion, even though, again, they were 2 or 4, whatever they were last year. Nebraska wants to be good again, and I feel like they're more open to change and to being successful. It's not as much as a hostile situation. Should have came in, I think, a little bit smoother, and I think he will. I think that grade will go up, but for now, I got to put him at a B+. Luke Fickell, the same. I feel like it's been kind of quiet on the Luke Fickell end. I think he's moving silent. I can't hit him on too much. Got him 15th in the transfer portal for 2023, but I'm at a B+, A-, kind of where I'm at for Luke Fickell. So we'll see, but it's exciting to see how these guys have been doing so far. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah. Similar grades. I think some of these guys have done some good things, some average things, and some others.
I think Hugh Freeze's doing a good job.
I did. Oh yeah, that's a total 100% of personal bias. That's not nothing against what the guy has actually done from a professional standpoint in his tenure. That's 100% different.
I see that. I love it. Well, boys, good discussion there. Let's see how the chat's doing. Muddy says, wonder how Mississippi State's head coach is going to do. Oh, I forgot. See, there's a lot of people. So I was kind of going more for the big names who have already made a splash. Yes, Mississippi State has one as well. Great thought, Muddy. I knew there's guys that I wouldn't think of just yet. And again, if we're not really talking about them, their grade's probably a little low. Gator Miami says 3-star Billy back, ? All right. Harrison Whitfield says, I think Mertz could have been in like a Bo Nix situation at Auburn. He's good, but doesn't have the offer support to the team to take the team to the next level. That's a great thought there, Harrison. For next week, we're going to I've been talking with Uncle Lou because he keeps obviously ragging on Coach Billy and saying that he's over his head. And I think that's an interesting conversation to have, and I want to talk with somebody that, look, even though Lou has his outlandish comments at times, he's got a level head for the most part, and I think he can have an open dialogue and open conversation. And I genuinely want to kind of pick his brain and go at him a little bit and say, why do you keep saying this, right? And I don't want to kind of show my hand just yet, but I've been trying to play it through my head. Is like, where is this coming from? He keeps saying he's over his head, but if not Billy, then who? If we don't go get Billy Napier, I know a lot of we've heard a few names. Lane Kiffin has been tossed around. Lincoln Riley was tossed around at one time. Brian Kelly, who didn't want to come to Florida, was tossed around, so you can't put that name out there. Lincoln Riley, you can make the argument that would have been a great option to go to, but at that point, who do you go get, right? And so I kind of want to say, hey, why do we think he's over his head? And I have a conversation. Do you think? I'll ask you. We'll talk to you about it real quick. I know it's not on the schedule, but let's talk about it. You weren't really prepared for this, but do you think he's over his head, or do you feel like it's still too soon? Don't hold back here. I don't care that you're an FSU. I want to know your genuine opinion on this.
I think last year he had a lot of ups and downs, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit more as we potentially touch on a little bit of the Anthony situation and what happened with him there. It felt like he had a lot of momentum going into the end of the year, and it fell flat for Billy. And then the Rashada thing just really kind of just took the wind out of his sails. And it looks like he's just been awkward ever since, right? He was so confident. He was smooth. Everything he said, it looked like he had everything under control, program manager. And then ever since the end of recruiting and things have kind of slowed down for him, it feels like he's trying to kind of get things back on track. I think that may be where it's stemming from. Outside of that, I don't think he had a bad year. A couple of games that got away from him that shouldn't have. And I think for the most part, he did a great job recruiting with the situation that he was given. So I don't think he's in over his head per se. I think there were a couple of games that he mismanaged. I think there were a couple of situations outside of what's actually happening on the field that could have gone differently, that would have changed the entire perception of Billy. A couple of things that go Florida's way. So I don't think he's in over his head. I think he just needs a couple of wins. And if he gets a couple of those wins, I think the confidence comes back, not only with the fan base, but with him, because he sounds different and he looks different in front of a camera right now. And I think that could be where some of the doubt is stemming from. Different guy right now in front of a camera.
You think so?
I feel that way, yeah, because he doesn't want to answer questions. He's getting boxed in. He's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, but
this time last year, they weren't asking him tough questions.
Yeah, I mean, but there wasn't anything to ask about either, right? So now the focus has been on one thing, and it's like, hey, I'm just trying to talk football. Like, I can't talk about this. You know that. I know that. Quit asking me. So there's a line, right? And I think, look, you can only handle it a certain way. To say that he's over his head, again, why? And you didn't say that. So that's why I want to ask him, like, we're like, it's fun to talk. Like, I know it's fun to say, like, hey, Billy, Sunbelt Billy, and talk a lot of smack. And look, I'm going to get the flack of, like, oh, I'm too much of a homer and a dick rider and whatever it may be. And I'm here for that. I'm ready to rock and roll. You know how I do. So it's going to be a fun conversation. I want to know in the comments too. You guys let me know. Let's kind of start the conversation now. Do we think Billy is over his head? I think obviously the conversation's a little much, but outside people are looking in thinking, oh, it's a joke. They're laughing at all of us. And again, it's just something to kind of to think about. Muddy has a question. Says, I have a question. Say Florida goes 4-8 or 5-7 this year, and Scott Strickland and Napier are fired. Would you go after Dion because of his Florida recruiting connections, also worldwide connections? I feel like that's a pretty do we think that happens? So you're just saying, let's just say it does happen. Do we go after Dion? I don't think Dion's leaving Colorado. We were just talking about this pre-cast. I don't see him leaving. I mean, why? Like you're in a Power 5 conference. I know it's not the blue blood a blue blood, school where it's just, a powerhouse forever. But is he just selling it hard and saying, hey, this is a phenomenal place to live. I love it here to help with recruits, possibly. But he's still there for X amount of team. He just can't pick up and leave, right? So if Florida were to go after Dion, I've looked at his contract. They've got to pay, I think, the second and third year, like 20 and 30 million, I believe, to take him from Colorado. So it's not like it's not going to be that easy to pluck him from Colorado as we just think like, oh, like, hey, man, you're good to go. Like, Colorado paid. They laid down some cheddar.
They came up with it.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was just like
they didn't
kind of
have it, but they came up with it.
It wasn't some low ball offer. So the idea of it sounds great, and yeah, it makes sense because with Norvell just signing an extension, FSU needs to be off the table now, right? He's there till 2029, which is massive. I think. Look, shout out to Norvell. Let's talk about that really quick. I think that contract is coming from what he's been able to do in the portal, because you had a great year last year, but Jordan Travis is gone after this year. So where's the love coming for the next 6 years, right? Where's the faith coming from? It has everything to do with what he's been able to do, like, in my opinion, in the portal and bringing guys in to fit what he needs to get done. And look, they trusted him for the 2 to 3 years. He was able to turn it around. He probably sold them a vision. That vision is now looking to be true. And they're like, yeah, this guy's doing what he said he was going to do. Look, good for him cashing in. I think these schools find themselves in a weird, precarious situation where I feel like they may have probably shot a little too far. And that's not a knock on Norvell. But, again, you're going off of one good year with back-to-back great portal years. So, but who's next after Jordan Travis? I think you got a great quarterback in Travis. And I'm not saying that he can't develop the next guy, but it seems that we've witnessed over the last 2 years here where these college coaches have a fat bag, and then they're just getting fired and basically just walking away into the sunset with a ton of money and not having to do anything. I don't understand how these colleges keep putting themselves in a situation where they're just throwing money to people. It's weird off a good couple seasons. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Norvell's doing more than what we realize. Do you, as a Florida State fan, were you excited to see that today?
I was super excited. Look, I mean, the other thing about Norvell is that I feel confident that he's not going to leave. He's not going to Jimbo us. And the other thing is, I know that the first 2 years weren't great, but they were also coming off of the Willie Taggart era, which, my goodness, to try to rebuild after that was terrible as it was. But then you had COVID involved as well, which slowed everything down. Recruiting didn't exist face-to-face. Everything had to be done virtually. So a lot of what a new head coach, kind of like what Billy had this year, where that new fresh face and that excitement, he didn't get that luxury. He never had that first year luxury of just getting a big recruiting push. I think to your point, what he showed as a vision and the way that he's going to accomplish it, he's been able to do so. Also, I do not believe that FSU's quarterback for next year, their starting quarterback for next year, is currently on the roster. Tate Rodemaker is not the guy. He stepped in, played great at Louisville.
So you're going back to the portal then?
He's got to go back to the portal, yeah. So you got to hope that there were a lot of quarterbacks that jumped in the portal this year that we really had no idea were going to be there. So you're hoping for that same situation this time around. And to the Dion point, the other thing to keep in mind with Dion leaving quickly is he brought a lot of kids with him, transfers from Jackson State. And for him to pack up and leave, those kids can't turn around and transfer again. They've already had their one free transfer. They can test the portal, but unless they get a waiver to get onto another roster, they could potentially have to sit out a year, right? So for him to pack up and leave before Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, all of these guys that he just brought in, not portal guys, but the actual recruiting guys who have 4 years ahead of him. If he packs up and leaves, some of these guys who just transfer to him to help him get this thing off the ground can't go with him, at least not for the most part. So he would be essentially abandoning a percentage of the guys who made that move with him.
So I think something, and real quick, got a super chat from Cody. He says Norvell does the portal. Norvell does the portal what Belichick does in free agency. Right, and I think he puts together a pretty good team with what Colorado has done in the portal and what FSU has done in the portal. We've been talking about what's going to be. I think you need both to be successful. Dom says he doesn't think you can win a championship by just being successful in the portal. I think we're going to find out next year. We've got the top 25 rankings coming up. We've got FSU pretty high, I think, as you should. It's a little bit of a stretch probably, but I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? They ended the year on an extreme high, even though they beat a 6-6 team in the bowl game. But that's neither here nor there. Look, you got to give credit when credit's due. It sucks, but it is what it is. So it's going to be interesting to see if all this talk and finishing in the top in the portal each year translate onto the field. Or look, you have to still complement it with a top class, which he's working on now. 2024 is off to a hot start. 2023, you finished what, top 20, right? Which in the ACC, top, 20, you don't need much. That's not a knock. That's fact. You don't. You could finish 15, 16, and you're second or third in the ACC, and you're going to be
second in the ACC,
and you're first in the portal. You're right there. You're in it. So we'll see how that plays out. It'll be interesting. Same thing with USC. They're getting better with recruiting. I think Lincoln Riley was going to do a phenomenal job. But look, I think Lane Kiffin, these guys, it's fun to watch what they can do in the portal. I mean, Lane Kiffin's still not recruiting. And that's an interesting thing that I think of when we think like, oh, Billy's over his head. They should have got Lane Kiffin. If Lane Kiffin was here, Florida would be having a conniption. We wouldn't be able to handle ourselves, no matter what he did in the portal, because how recruiting would be. DJ Lagley wouldn't be here probably. Like, all these things wouldn't have happened already. So, look, I think we got to have patience with Billy. Look, the fact that we keep talking like, hey, he could be somewhere is a little much in my opinion. Boys and girls, make sure we drop a like, show some love here. I'd appreciate it. David Soderquist says, I'm actually having some interesting merch stats I'm reading on the show, too. Okay. I love how when we first got merch, Gator Nation was, like, in this weird, like, this sucks thing. And over the last month, because the realization of, like, it doesn't matter how much we bitch, we're getting merch. We're, like, finding ways to make it seem like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. You know, he had a lot of shitty situations in Wisconsin. It's a little cold up there, but he's coming. I think Billy's going to make it work. I think this is where talking season's a blast, right? Because where we go from is like complete mayhem to where, look, talking season, you have to talk positively. You have to get excited about it. And so you look at a few things, you start talking about it. It's like the telephone game. And by summertime, Graham Mertz is going to be a Heisman favorite in our eyes. Fact. Come July, we get an orange and blue game in. We get a Friday Night Lights in. I'm going to put the video out there saying Mertz is the Dark Knight to win the Heisman. This is going to happen. So just be prepared. No need. Don't go ahead and get your comment ready to say you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, because it's going to happen. All right.
Fire up the angry Twitter fingers. Just go ahead and get started. You know, we're going to Shelton to be flying a drone over the swamp. Having a Graham Mertz hype video popping out of this thing no later than early August. August at the latest. Could be July. You never know.
So I see you guys are kind of getting rowdy in the comments a little bit. Talking about losing to Vandy. And we had Eat a Dick Racing on Thursday, which we had our call-in show, which we might do tomorrow night. I think that was very successful last night. Oh, Getting Swamp says they're all bad. Okay, sorry, never mind. But Eat a Dick Racing called in, and he said, look, like where his reasoning for hating on Billy was, again, the resume, right? This quick snapshot of the resume. Lost to Florida State, lost to LSU, lost to Georgia, lost to Vandy, lost to Tennessee, and lost to Kentucky. Lost to everyone that you don't want to lose to, and won in a single season. Okay? You got beat up to Miami a few times in recruit. You had everything that could go wrong in year one. Look, this is kind of why I'm saving my argument for Uncle Lou. I don't want to show my cards just yet. But
careful.
When you look at it like that, when you look at it like that, I can see where the frustration from Florida fans are and where we're thinking this isn't good. It's 1 year, right? We do interviews all the time. We don't look at 1 year worth of work. You look over 4 or 5 years worth of work, and that's how we make our decision. You ask, hey, what happened during that year? Why does this look a little messy? And you can explain those losses. Again, if you look at it in a snapshot, it's like, wow, I lost all those guys in 1 year. Sounds bad. But take a look at it by game, and look, it's not as bad as it sounds. And again, maybe that's my optimistic, side speaking, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Let me ask you this: if Mertz is the quarterback, do you win 2 of those games? Maybe Kentucky.
If Mertz is quarterback, we may not lose.
Mertz about to show out. Bullkite, books, crocodile.
You like that? I have to read it now.
You got a new toy, didn't you? You got a new toy?
I got a new toy. Todd Freeman.
You got to tell me about these things before the
I like to keep people guessing. Super chat from Todd Freeman says, Mertz about to show out. Book it. A bunch of little gators. Thanks for the love there, Todd. I appreciate you, big dog. Lego Mertz.
Hold on. It said crocodile.
Bro, Chris Sarley. I thought you left us, bud. piss myself. Hey, welcome to the show, big guy.
There it is. What's up, man?
What's up, babe? Welcome to the show. It's been a while, bro. Thought you broke up with us. Everyone's been dipping out, dodging us. We've got Gator drama on Twitter between other Gator channels. I mean, it's mayhem right now in Gator Nation, boys. We got to come together and kumbaya this. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about the depth chart here. Okay, let's move on. Let's keep the train here moving right along, boys, and talk about it. So the depth chart has this is again. Nick Del Toro, kind of what he felt was going to happen. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit and agree, disagree, etc. So for quarterback, he's got starter Graham Mertz and backup Jack Miller. Look, Billy came out and said during his press conference they studied 24 quarterbacks in the portal. Mertz is who they came out with. What does that mean? I don't know, right? I don't know if 24
works at Florida.
Not everybody worked out. I don't know what that means. Right? But look, he studied 24. Again, if we trust in Billy, I trust the pick. I trust the pickup. I'm ready to rock. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at with that. Running backs, Montrell Johnson, Trevor. Easy with that. Then Trayon and Cameron Carroll as for depth. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with those first two. Those two, in my opinion, are an absolute lock. For receiver, this is where I get excited because obviously, we're close with Aiden on this show. Love to see what he's going to do. But Xavier Henderson, excited for that to be the X guy with Caleb Douglas as the backup. I think Caleb Douglas had a great year last year. Excited to see him get some more reps. Jaquavion Fraziers, he was my Dark Knight for last year. So I'm excited to see what he does this year. I thought he did well in the orange and blue game last year. I think he did well when he stepped up last year a few times. Really excited to see what he does. I got Abe Mazzell as his backup. Loving that. Then we got in the slot, Ricky Pearsall. Loving that. Right now I'm loving the wide receiver core with the backup as Bowman. And then Eugene Wilson also, because he's enrolling a little bit late. That's probably why he's a little bit lower. But Eugene could have one of those takeoff summers and work his way up that depth chart, which I could see that happening. With the tight end, We've got Dante Sanders and Keon Zipperer as the backup. Zipperer is your guy. I don't hate those 1 and 2s. I'm excited to see what Odom, Boardingham, and Hayden Hansen can do, though. Those are the three that I'm most excited for, in my opinion. Nothing against Dante or Keon. I would love for Keon to have some success. I know he was hungry last year. We've interviewed him on the show, but I would love to see a Boardingham and Hansen really get some more reps and slowly take over that starting role if it's me. That's my thought process on that. Kind of like what Trevor did this past year, right? Started third on the chart, and by the end of the year, it was like, give it to either him or Montreal. I don't care. Just feed somebody. But I mean, look, we've got options, right? Odom, Boardingham, Hansen, Dante, and Keon now. It's a big, big room. And Odom had some success there at the end, and I think having some great tight end success is going to help Mertz, our Heisman candidate, have a successful year.
You beat me to the punch on Odom at tight end. They schemed him so very well against FSU and finding him just wide open a couple of times, either on like a little wheel route or maybe just kind of dragging across the line. Looks like he was going to block, kind of peels off, and he's wide open. Odom had an amazing game against Florida State that night. He was an absolute nightmare. I think I want to say he was close to fingertipping that ball down there near the 5 or 10 that would have put you guys in. Pretty much would have wrapped that game for you guys if he was able to catch that ball, but I think we dislodged it. But I believe that was Odom that almost caught that one as well. He had a great game, and that was really my first exposure to him. But man, every time I looked up, man, that guy was just white lightning down the side of the field.
Yes, sir. So then we got offensive line, which I'm really excited about. This is something that I think Billy's done a great job in the transfer portal on picking this up. So we'll talk about this. So left tackle, he's got Austin Barber, and then backup William Harold. Obviously, this is filling in for Tarquin and Richard, who left. Left guard is Micah Mazuka, who's from Baylor. Really excited to see him. Backup is Jalen Farmer. Center is Kingsley. Then backup is Jake Slaughter. I'm okay with all these. Also with Najee coming in, he's going to be that third string is what they got him looking at. Really excited to see him play. Then we got right guard Richie, and backup is Roger Kearney. I love the fact that we've got Kearney, a freshman, coming in, looking like he's going to be the second guy in there. And then right tackle is Damian George and Keontae Goodwin. So two big dogs, one from Bama, obviously, then the 5-star guy from Kentucky, Keontae, both coming in at right tackle. So, look, the O-line looks thick. It looks healthy.
Crocodile.
That's my favorite. My gosh.
Crocodile.
The fact that they don't call it gator and it's a crocodile, that's my gosh.
I was wondering to see how this was going to do.
Crocodile.
And this was what I was concerned that we would get spammed a little bit, but it is fun. Thanks for the super chat, Gator, versus anybody.
Thanks, man.
So, look, really, I love the sound of that depth chart. Wide receiver, I told you I was going to be excited for. Those things sound good. The offensive lineman looks good. Look, we keep coming back to it where the biggest concern is quarterback, which we kind of already, in a sense, talked about that last time, comparing the two. And again, we got some comments saying, well, different style of play, different style of competition, SEC play versus, Big Ten play, etc. But again, the biggest thing that I keep going back to is it felt like the entire time Anthony was on a mission to sell himself. And not a knock towards Anthony, but it nothing really ever got clicked. Never got into this motion of like, hey, we're going to buy in, etc. He's trying to do too much. I don't feel like we're going to have that issue with Mertz, and that's the one thing that I'm excited about. However, I preached this. I thought Jack was going to be able to come in and do that as well in the bowl game. The bowl game was disastrous. Now, mind you, we just had 20 guys enter into the portal. I mean, you're plugging and chugging, trying to figure this thing out, going up against a well-oiled machine in Oregon State. So was it really as bad as the score showed? Probably not. Unfortunately, though, that's all we have to go off of. So I'm going to be extremely critical on the orange and blue game, watching a lot of these things, trying to see, like, hey, can we see some progress? I'm really excited to see that game, and I'm excited to see some practice footage coming out here and some noise coming in beginning of March. So February, we're going to look. It's going to be talking season and us just doing hypotheticals because that's all we got right now, obviously. But really, really excited to see what we have on the field next year. I really am. I know I keep saying that, but I really am.
I like what you guys did with the offensive line this year, even with some of the portal pickups. It looked like size was definitely a focus, and you guys were definitely able to pick up some size on the offensive line. Billy is a run-first guy, and he always has been, especially with Rob Sale, which I think we'll talk about here in just a little bit, at offensive coordinator. I mean, those guys set the records for Louisiana when they were out there for a lot of different rushing statistics. Having that level of size that you do and the talent that you have at running back, I think is going to be Graham Mertz's best friend. If he can get that power running game going, get those traps, those counters, get those wide receiver screens going, those high confidence throws that's going to allow a quarterback that may not be a 5-star athletic freak like an Anthony Richardson, get him some confidence and get him, a defense that's maybe a little softened up. That's a little bit like how Wisconsin plays, right? That might be a system that fits a lot better for him than I think some people are giving it credit for. Is he going to look like the all-world pro? Is he going to take off and beat you for 80 yards down the center of the field on a quarterback sneak or a run? Probably not. But I think he could be an efficient system quarterback for what I've seen from Billy and the way he likes to organize an offense.
Sure. I see you guys in there too talking about the defense. So I got the defense pulled up as well. Again, shout out to Nick Del Toro from On3. Write this thing out. I think it's fun to look over and talk about. So for defensive end, he's got starter Princely and then backup Justin Boom. I think that's a healthy DE there. Both of those guys. I think Princely did a phenomenal job last year. Had made some major strides. Kelby Collins obviously is on that list for coming in. I think Kelby Collins has got grown man strength, so I think he'll be a guy that we see later on in the season, if not earlier, sooner rather than later. For defensive tackle, DT, Cameron Jackson. We had him on the show. Great character, great guy with backup Tyreek Sapp. Caleb Banks will also play here, but we think it's more of a development player. And keep an eye on Will Norman is what he says. So for DT. So, look, I think what Billy's doing, as we can notice here, did a great job in the portal to fill in the gap year, right? And then we've got Will Norman, Kelby Collins, and hopefully we can get 2024 in the works as well, too. So starting to build something here. Nose tackle, Big Dez. Starter.
Yeah, I was going to say, how can we not talk about him?
the man.
How do we not talk about him?
Yeah, big boy there. Hope we got to get that guy on the show. I mean, that guy's going to be a hot commodity over the next few years here. With Chris McKellen as the backup, healthy, loving that. So right now, Big Dez, Cameron Jackson, again, out of the portal. Princely, who had a phenomenal year last year. I think he's going to do great things. And then next on the edge, we've got Powell Ryland. And then backup Jack Fiburn, baby. Homeboy's coming in. There he is. We talk about him. Nice late hour shower thoughts with old Jack Fiburn. Would love to see. Excited to see Fiburn play. I know he's hungry and ready to make some moves. So excited. Inside linebacker, something that we've been talking about. So starters is Derek Wingo and Tejada Mitchell or Terada Mitchell. I always mess that up. I got to get that dialed in. With backups as Shamar James and Deuce Spurlock. So, again, healthy, thick. 3 of those guys, all 4 of them have played, obviously. James and Wingo obviously played for Florida last year. Mitchell and Spurlock are both transfers, one from Ohio State, one from Michigan. So, excited to see what they can do. Again, did they replace Ventrell Miller? No. But it's look, and Bernie had a great year last year too. So, it's going to be a lot to fill in, some big shoes to fill, but I'm going to be optimistic until I'm not. For quarterback, he's got starters at Jason Marshall and Jaden Hill with backups as David Moore and Jalen Kimber. We'll see how that works out. Jakeem Jackson obviously is coming in, and he has Sharif Denson. Those are 2 freshmen to keep an eye on. So that my opinion, is going to be who wants it more for that position there. As for the star nickel, he's got starter Jadarius Perkins with backup Sharif Denson. And then safety, he's got Kamari Wilson. Super excited to see Kamari play as a starter. Then Miguel Mitchell. And then backups, Jordan Castle and Jadarius Perkins. So, in punter, we've got Jeremy Kershaw, my dog.
Now, Kamari Wilson was the guy that stepped in quite a few times for the safety. His name eludes me, but there was just a safety that was just like the bane of all Florida fans' existence for a couple of games. That everybody just Trey Dean. There we go. He just almost ended up being like the catch-all for all things wrong.
Won the damn
I saw
MVP at the damn Senior Bowl. It's like, what's up, bro?
Yeah,
had an interception.
Everybody was just they were just pointing him out in all the Gator breakdown things. Like, oh, there he goes again. And so, but I think Kamari Wilson was the guy that stepped in for him a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. F is Fernac says my dark horse is Jack P. Muddy says every time I hear Jack P, I think of your shower incident. It wasn't an incident, okay? It was a thought. All right, Muddy? So relax, okay? It wasn't an incident. Yeah, so look, excited. It was good to see that kind of getting the talk started already for the depth chart. Is it football season already? Like, I'm ready to rock and roll. I know we're not even close, but it just I'm ready. I'm ready to get this ball moving. Just give me some football. Give me some practice. Give me some pads. Just give me some running some routes. Just give me some photos of them in their hot, just sweaty gear. Not this. This isn't working out. I love seeing this too, but I want to see them on, just sweating and, just ripped and just. I love it.
Oh boy. Yeah, if we don't get shirtless pics here soon of a couple of workouts,
I'm done.
This whole chat's gonna go bananas.
Yeah, I'm done with college football. If we don't get that, you know what I'm saying? So we better hurry up and figure that out. All right, let's talk about this really quick. This is an interesting one. Okay, Steve. We got to talk about it because it's obviously coming up with the NFL draft with Anthony Richardson, and his stock just keeps continuing to rise as the days go on, right? And it makes me wonder: are we going to look back and be like, we missed it? Billy dropped the ball. Or we dropped the ball, or we had a talent and we didn't function. I don't know, right? That's the question. Did UF miss, or is it all just being kind of overhyped for the NFL?
So look, the last thing that any college football fan of their respective team wants to ever say is, did we underutilize a great talent? That's the worst feeling in the world, is for when the guy moves on, does he succeed, and did we not get as much out of that guy as we possibly could have, right? So, like, for example, FSU could have not gotten any more out of Jameis Winston than we got. We got a Heisman, we got a national championship, we went to the playoffs, all those things. He was there for 2 years. The kid only lost 1 game. Off you go, Jameis. Thanks for everything. We didn't miss anything with Jameis. We got everything we could. Florida right now needs to kind of take, well, the fans anyway. Florida's moved on, right? But if you look at what Richardson went through in his 3 years at Florida, he was recruited under Mullen. He played in 3 games. His offensive coordinator, I believe, was named Brian Johnson, right? In 2021, Mullen gets fired after 4 games. Greg Knox takes over as the interim offensive coordinator, meaning that he has another offensive coordinator for the remainder of that season. So he's now in his 2nd year with his 2nd offensive coordinator. Then obviously Billy gets hired. Billy brings in Rob Sale. We just talked about how the offensive philosophy for Billy and Rob is to have that power running game open things up. If you look at what Anthony's skill set is, I don't believe that Mullen ever utilized him properly because of Emory and his connection with Emory. And I don't believe that he was really a skill set fit for Billy. So I think when you look at this and you say, did we underutilize Anthony? I think you're going to end up saying yes, based on his success in the league. But I don't really think it was something that the current staff can be responsible for. They didn't recruit the kid. He's not exactly, I think, and I don't think Billy's ever had a quarterback with that type of skill set or even at that level of athleticism. I don't think he knew what the hell to do with him, to be completely honest. I could be wrong. But to your point, look, Anthony looked like sometimes he was playing to make the big play every play. I also believe that his experience with Florida and all the just turnover and change and constant new faces didn't exactly give him the ability to get comfortable in a situation or the coaches to get comfortable with him either. So I think it's on both sides. But I think when you look back at it, you're going to feel like with the upside that the kid had, you're going to feel like you probably lost an opportunity with him when he was there.
Well said, Steve. I think so. Look, I think what the NFL draft does a good job of is always overselling it, right? So they have to make this exciting to a certain extent. I think it's going to be one of the more exciting NFL drafts with obviously C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young. All these guys going to go probably pretty quick, right? All probably top 10 is what it's looking like. It's what it's being projected like. So all these new teams are going to get, in a sense, new franchise quarterbacks being first-round draft pick. You're intending this kid to be the face of the franchise. With the Panthers going after Anthony Richardson, that seems to be where he's going to end up. Again, do I see him sitting out the first year? I could see him probably getting thrown into the fire pretty quickly. I think where I'm getting kind of caught up into the noise is you look at him and everyone keeps talking about him. It's just his stature. The guy's a freak. You know what I mean? He's just an athletic, just human freak. And it's like, do we miss out on him? Do we mess up? The guy can throw the ball 1,000 miles an hour. I think where we keep forgetting, and I think what the NFL does a good job of, is like, look, the NFL probably starts watching. They're not keeping track all year. They see the highlights. They watch ESPN. I don't think they're as in tuned with it as we are. And I'm not saying that we're smarter than the NFL, but, I mean, we watch Anthony more than anybody else because we're here, right? So I think that's what we focus on. There's no one from the Panthers that's been watching Anthony to that extent. I could be wrong, but I just don't think they are, right? They're going to go watch the highlight film. Just like we do in high school, you see some highlight film. I'm sure they went to a few schools, but they're gonna get blinded by the stature. Like, yeah, it just Billy can't get it done, right? We're the NFL here. We're not college football. We can make this. We can make it work for this kid, and maybe that's true. But I've also seen the NFL overhype a lot of guys. Josh Rosen being one of them, right? Where the ball's dropped plenty of times. Carson Wentz, and it doesn't happen. And these guys, Zach Wilson, going to the Jets in the second round. Like, where was that? Where did that come from? So sometimes the NFL misses too. This is not a knock towards AR. I hope he has a successful career. I think the 9th overall pick is a bit aggressive because I know when he was in Florida, a big thing that was brought up a multitude of times was kind of like, hey, the mental ability of him handling the pressure, of him handling what was going on. Well, you're going to be the number 9th pick in the draft, and now you're going to go to the Panthers, and they're probably going to want you to be the face of it pretty quickly. How are you going to handle that? And look, I know the Swamp versus Carolina is not the same thing because I think the Swamp is a little more intimidating to play than Carolina. I understand that. However, it's going to be a lot to take on. So I don't think we're going to look back and say we missed out. I think we look back on Cam Newton and say that we missed out because of what he was able to do in college, not what he was able to do in the NFL. As for his upside in the NFL, if you could compare him to somebody, where do you think Anthony – Who do you say like where his max potential is based on what we know, and for the fact that he is going to Carolina, so take that into consideration. Who doesn't have anybody at the moment? They basically completely they've thrown everybody away, which is another interesting situation. It's not like he's going like Bryce Young and these guys. They're going to Bryce is projected to go to Indianapolis. That's not a horrible situation to be in, and I want to talk about that in a minute too. But Bryce Young going to Houston. Houston showed some light there at the end. I think they got a great running back. I think his name is Dameon Pierce. Their wide receiver cores, they can pick a few out. But they had Driscoll back there. They were starting to make some strides there towards the end. So I think C.J. Stroud can make an impact. And I think Will Levis going to Seattle is absolutely phenomenal under Pete Carroll. So I think out of anybody in the draft, I think that's why Will Levis is going to have success because of where he ends up. But where do you think in quarterbacks that we have right now that Anthony has the potential of being?
I mean, look, the high end, he could be a Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, that's the ceiling, I think, for his style of game, from what I've seen, right? His athleticism, I think that's probably the comparison that you would hope that he could be on the top end of things. I guess the basement would be, man. I mean, I would think maybe some early career Geno Smith, where he didn't find the touch until later in his career. There's been a couple of guys that have gone through, but I would say probably Geno Smith, the athleticism, the ability to move around, run the ball, but just couldn't ever find the touch, couldn't ever put the offense together and make the quick decisions. I think if you look at Geno Smith when he was at the Jets, that's probably your basement for Richardson, with Lamar Jackson being your ceiling. Just
Okay.
based on their style.
So in the chat here, I got a few Lamar Jackson comparisons from F is Fanatics for Lamar 2.0. I think Lamar has a little bit of a better arm, but I could see that. This is an interesting one from Harrison. It says RG3 because he's injury prone. That's not a horrible comparison. Same type of organization that he's going to, right? Same situation. I know when RG3 came out, again, kind of the same. It was a long time ago, it feels like, and it was a very short career because of the injuries. I think he's a little bit bigger of a build than RG3, in my opinion. Again, it's really hard to. Again, he kind of gives me, in a sense, more of Cam Newton vibes with his size and his ability to throw an absolute piss missile down the field. And we saw that's the upside, I think, right? Which is he brought them to a Super Bowl, but kind of had a hard time finding his position after that. But because of his athletic ability, I think he can come in and make a huge impact right away. Because, again, that's I think what Cam did his first year is they had to figure him out. Lamar's first year, phenomenal. Had to figure him out. Once we were able to figure him out and kind of find out what his weakness was, people have been able to exploit it ever since then. And do they get that figured out quickly with Anthony? I don't know, right? So I think that's kind of his upside. Again, I think it'd be better for him to be a backup and be able to work his way through. But going to Carolina, they had Baker and Carson there this year. They never really figured out who was a starting quarterback. You fire Rule. I would hate to go there if I'm Anthony. It's like the situation when Joey was going to go to Cincinnati. Like, does he pull an Eli and go, I don't want to go there? Do you pull that in Carolina? I don't know. Are you just going to get that quick bag and hang out? If I'm him, I do not. I'd rather wait around. Send me to Bill Belichick. Send me to go behind Mac Jones. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm Anthony, I don't want to go to you guys, but I'm not Anthony, so not my call.
Well, look, the thing with Eli and San Diego and that whole debacle was that San Diego had been historically bad for a very long time. They were in a decrepit stadium. They had an owner that didn't care. They had an owner that didn't invest. And he simply put, it didn't feel like they ever were going to change their ways from an ownership standpoint. I think that's the reason. It wasn't because they were just a bad team at the time for Eli. I think it was because they had been a decades-long bad team with ownership that didn't care that they were bad. Now, look, I don't think that Carolina, look, they're a bad team. Don't get me wrong. They are a bad football team, but I don't think they're in the same boat per se, because it doesn't mean that just because they're a bad football team that they don't have a buy-in from the ownership to get a better football team around them again. Sometimes you got to hit the reset button. I mean, you can look at what Tampa Bay is having to do. Every team's had to do it. And I think that's just kind of where Carolina's at. I don't doubt that they're going to still try to build a team. Just that they don't have one right now. So I can see where you're coming from. It's not going to be instant gratification. And he might have to be pushed on the field faster than his development says he should be out there, which could be detrimental in and of itself. But I do believe that down the road, Carolina will build around him, whereas nobody wanted to go to San Diego, bro. That place was just a hole in the ground back then.
Sure. Yeah, I think I just don't think he's the guy to go and get it started. I don't think he's in there,
Sure.
To take it by the reins, and like where Joey stepped into Cincinnati and was like, we're gonna take this to the house, right? So we'll see. Look, Carolina might have a great draft, pick up a few wide receivers. Look, with C-Mac there, I think when they had C-Mac, they were in a weird position where it's like, look, we just gotta find a guy that can kind of basically what's going on in San Francisco. You just need a guy to manage the damn thing and just get the ball to C-Mac however which way you can. That's kind of where they were at with that. So. We'll see. It's gonna be fun. We're excited for April to see how that plays out. Gonna be a good one.
Yeah, I like it. Boys. I like it a lot. Maybe we'll do a little live draft call-in show.
Yeah, 100%.
When your team picks, or your pro team picks, you can call in. You can give us a little insight on how you feel about it.
QB says, "Let's be 100%. Our QBs just don't work out in the NFL. They really haven't. They have not.
Yeah. Aside from Jameis, I can't really speak to FSU having a whole lot of success. And don't get me wrong, Jameis is far from setting the world on fire in the league. I mean, maybe Danny Cannell had a good couple of years, but there's certainly nobody to speak of from the FSU side of things as well.
Absolutely. All right, boys. Well, it's top 25 time. We're going to give you guys our prediction on what we think should be the top 25. Not what we think is going to happen, but what we think should be the top 25 based on how recruiting finished, based on TV ratings going into that first game. I think that should be a factor because really, like, the ratings in the beginning of the season, like, what's the point of them? It's so we have something to talk about. Like, let's be honest. You know what I mean? You always want a game kind of like last year where it was Florida versus Utah, where you've got a team that could be 25th, but they're not. Going up against a top, 15th team, it's like, this is exciting. I know Florida's not top 25, but they have the potential to be there because of X, Y, and Z, right? So I feel like week 1 and 2, you got to create a narrative to make those games exciting. That's what makes them exciting, is that little number next to their name, whether whoever they're playing. That's a fact. So that was into consideration of how we decided to place this top 25 together. Obviously, we're going to start from the 25th spot and then work our way down. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I know I wouldn't be surprised if half the audience left when we put this first team in there, but that is what it is. Real quick, though, before we move on, make sure you guys drop a like and show some love, guys. Let's rock and roll. But at the 25th spot, and hear us out, okay? we got Colorado. Now, I know everyone's going to freak out and lose their nutsacks on this one, but again, keep in mind, we're thinking TV ratings. We're thinking about, hey, who he's got coming in at quarterback. It's not like it's going to be a whole new team, 1-11. It's a stretch. I know that, but that 25th spot is a rotating wheel. Is there a better option? Probably, but they're going up against TCU, who we have in the top 25 as well, and it's going to be a great matchup to see that 25 versus whatever in that game 1. Is there probably a better 25? Yes. I know we're going to get a lot of flack for it. But, again, just chill out, all right? It's too – having it that early anyways is a waste. I wouldn't be surprised, bro, if people just clicked off and said, this is dumb. It is what it is. We're rocking and rolling. 24, I put my phone away, and I got to pull up my phone.
Look, I mean, to your point, like, again, this is not okay, let's take a step back.
Yep.
There shouldn't be a preseason ranking. Nobody has played a down of football yet. The only reason there's a preseason ranking is for people like you and me, the chuckleheads out there, the Associated Press, if they're to have media hype it up and talk about it, to put the little number next to the name, to be able to say that there's 2 top-ranked teams playing in week 1. That's the only reason. In the grand scheme of things, they shouldn't even do a ranking until everybody has played week 1, so you can just see what they look like in a pair of pads first. But to that point, they've been doing it this way for a long time, so we'll piggyback on that. And look, Colorado has got enough media love and a media recognition, which I have to imagine they'll continue to get all through the offseason, that why would the ranking system not throw a number next to their name so they could start out having a ranked game in week 1? It just doesn't make any sense not to, because let's be honest, this isn't just football anymore, guys. It's a business. It's about money.
Look, I see you guys getting fired up saying we're crazy about it, but the hate for Dion, it's funny on both ends because it's either you love him or you hate him. You guys say I'm riding his dick. The fact, like, nobody can give me an argument of why Dion to Colorado is a good thing. It's almost like it's fun to hate on it, right? Look, you're writing the receipt. They're not going to be 25. I know that, Cody. I know for a fact they're not going to be 25. I'm not here to get it right? We're giving you what we think should happen. There's no way in hell they're ranked 25th. I'm fully aware of that. But I'm thinking that why wouldn't you? That's what I'm trying to get at. Why would you not? That's what I'm saying. All right, number 24, we've got the Gamecocks with Shane Beamer. I think they're going to be off to a great start. Again, they were a team last year that I felt that could have had a successful season. It was kind of touch and go. It was back and forth, one or the other. And with Shane Rattler coming back, they had a great end to recruiting. They have a great start to recruiting this year. And I think they're going to be a solid team next year if they can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I agree. Rattler coming back again. They did some good things last year. They did some bad things last year, but it looks like they were working through the kinks with with a first-year coach. I think another year under the belt for the current players and what they were able to do in the portal, and I want to tip my cap to them for everything that they did for FSU this year as well. So let's go ahead and put them in at the 24th spot. Thank you, South Carolina.
Absolutely. Next, we got the old Huddy Tuddy and Lane Kiffin coming in at 23 there. Look, I think they got some studs there at quarterback. They kind of skidded at the end there, but I think more so Lane just got lazy. When you got 21 through 25, man, it can kind of go any way you want, to be honest with you. Those last few spots, like I said, it's like a carousel. It's just however somebody's feeling. There's really no way to really put somebody in that spot. You can almost put South Carolina before Ole Miss. We're close, but we'll see.
We're spitballing here. Yeah, we're spitballing here. I mean, like the bottom, like anything from 20th down is just a carousel. It'll continue to be a carousel.
Sure.
You'll go from in the top 25 to others receiving votes category to back into the top 25. It's that's just the life of starting at the 22nd or 23rd or 24th spot. That's just the life that you're going to live throughout the duration of your season.
Sure. Next, we've got North Carolina. Got Drake May coming back. Look, I think the ACC, they were in the ACC championship last year against Clemson. North Carolina, in my opinion, has the ability to take over the ACC next year. It's open for a little bit. I mean, look, Florida State's going to be good. Clemson's going to be in a weird place. So I think North Carolina is easily, you could kind of like put them in the top 15 through 20 or where they're at right here. I think they're going to be somebody to be reckoned with next year. But again, how they kind of fell, I felt like they could have won the ACC championship. So we'll see how that plays out, though. I know with you being an ACC, I mean, anytime you can get anybody in there, you're going to love it.
Love it. Look, I think Drake May is a great quarterback. I don't think you can win at a high level consistently without somebody talented at the quarterback position. And he's a good guy. He's a good quarterback, and I think he can do some good things there. So I think that's a good spot for him to start the season.
Love it. And then this one here, this was a Steve pick, so I'm going to let Steve talk here with Texas Tech. Finished, I think, 8-4 last year. Right, and this one's a weird one for me. I mean, I think they had some big wins. I know a lot of people have Texas Tech up there. Again, it's a Big 12 team. It's just I'm not sold on it, but again, these 5 spots are kind of like whatever.
Right. I mean, look, Texas Tech brings back their quarterback. He was an Oregon transfer, so he's got not only last year but then D1 talent. They beat Texas. They beat Oklahoma. They didn't wow anybody. But it was a first-year coach out there. I believe his name was Joey McGuire. His first season at Texas Tech, they go 8-5. They win their bowl game. They got a quarterback who can fling it coming back. Look, I think they got a chance to pick up where they left off per se from 2022. So let's get them in the top 25. Let's give them a little love for the season they had.
There you go. Next, we got the Waves here. Had obviously coming off a big win against USC in the bowl game. I think they carry that into this year, and again, not much competition. I feel like they can probably win their conference again. So,
yep.
I was thinking the same.
They did lose their running back, their number 1 running back to the draft. However, they do bring back the quarterback that threw for over 3,000 yards. So playing in the AAC, that is the AAC, not to be confused. With a guy coming back who's thrown for 3,000 yards, you got to think that they're the favorite to win it. So give them a little bit of love, guys. Those guys went to the Cotton Bowl, and although it looked like a little bit like USC just didn't feel like finishing the ball game when they lost it, but they still had to go out there and win the damn thing. So let's give Tulane a little bit of love. That was a big win for them.
Yes, sir. Next, we've got UCLA, the Bruins. Now, I know some people have them a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Again, I think they had a great season last year up until the USC game, and I think they're going to come back with a vengeance. I know Dante Moore just committed to them, so they have a great finish to their class. Look, I think the entire California side is kind of wide open to have some great success. Same thing with the Pac-12. And I think the Pac-12, in my opinion, is going to be like the SEC this year, where they're going to beat each other up. But with that, I think we're going to see, kind of like the SEC, a few of them up there because of how strong the Pac-12 is going to be. So that's why we've got them where they're at.
Yep, Chip Kelly's a great coach. The loss to Arizona was a little surprising, but overall they had a good year. Again, Chip Kelly can do some pretty good things with some pretty average talent from what we've seen in the past.
For sure. Next is Kansas State. Again, this is I feel like we get to these, it kind of gets a little, but they had a great season last year. winning the Big 12 over TCU. So I'd expect them to kind of keep that same energy. Again, the Big 12 is going to be a headache, I think, for some people. I think Texas is going to be a lot better. We have Texas on this list a little bit higher later on. TCU is still high on the list for now. I see them kind of dropping off a little bit. Obviously, Texas Tech's on here. So, look, Big 12, SEC, and Pac-12 are really going to be making some runs this year, and I think Kansas State's going to be part of that as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of K-State this year. Trayshawn Ward, the running back for Florida State that transferred, that's actually where he landed. He was a great player for us, so I'm excited to watch him. So I'm a big K-State fan this year for that reason alone.
Okay. Next we got the Ducks or the Beavers here. Holly's favorite mascot, the Oregon the Beavers.
The Beavers.
They got DJ from Clemson. And
They
obviously,
did.
we know what they did in the bowl game against us. They had, I think, 3 losses last year, had a pretty healthy season. I think this is perfectly, and they finished 16th, and they're going to come right into this season 16th. So I think they did, in my opinion, they didn't do a lot. I mean, they blew Florida out 30-3, but Florida was a 6-6 football team. So I'm not going to give you a hooting and hollering for that. But picking up DJ and the transfer portal, I think is going to be huge. I think it wasn't working out for him, but I'm not completely going to quit on him just yet.
Yeah, not super sold on the kid, but he's still probably the best talent they've had at quarterback in Oregon State in quite some time. I'm not going to pat him on the back either for the bowl win. I think that was that was just a free win to get everybody back home and start and hit the reset button. But Jonathan Smith, the coach out there, 5th season, he's been doing some decent things. A 10-3 season, regardless of the bowl win, and kind of getting a free W there was still a good season for those guys. It's a small, tiny little school in the middle of nowhere. For those guys to pull any talent is impressive.
Next, we got Washington. Again, had a pretty tough schedule. Again, that Pac-12 is going to be tough again this year. I think we even talked about putting Washington State up here, but we did not pull them in here. But we got Washington coming in at 15th.
Yep, look, that was a super competitive conference out there. I know that people see the Pac-12 and they just think it's all offense, but Washington won 11-2. They won the Alamo Bowl. They got their quarterback coming back. I mean, look, they could have a potential Heisman contender with Penix out there at quarterback. So let's see what they do. Oh, I like it.
Love that. So in this next one, I think we might eat our words on this one here. I think we may have disrespected them a little bit. Oregon Ducks here with Bo Nix coming back. Obviously, they got blown out against Georgia, but they ended up with a pretty healthy season. Had an opportunity to play in the Pac-12 game, lose a few games that kicked them out of that, but they had the control, which they ended up losing, and then finished with a pretty phenomenal class, finishing first in the Pac-12 in 2023. Again, we might have them. We have them at 15th. That might be a little disrespectful, but we got. I have a homer pick in front of them, which is probably only person we probably would actually put them. So it's not a horrible pick, but some people might have Oregon a little bit higher due to the fact of what's coming back and what they were able to do in the draft or the recruiting this year.
Yeah, but they do lose their offensive coordinator. They get Bo Nix back, but they lost Kenny Dillingham, their offensive coordinator, to, I want to say, Arizona. Yeah, Arizona, I think so, is where he went. But so, look, anytime you have a transition with a quarterback that's returning, but an offensive coordinator change, there could be a little bit of friction there. It could be a little bit of communication issues. So we'll see how they do. Look, I think they had a great season, even for Oregon standards. A couple of times that they stubbed their toe. Certainly that first game was not indicative of how good that team was overall.
Yes, sir. Next, we got Clemson, old Dabo. Obviously, you got the new quarterback at the helm there, but it's Clemson. And I think being in the ACC, they did well. They lost the bowl game to Tennessee, didn't they? But
they did.
Yeah, they did. They did. I forgot about that. So, look, still think it's Dabo. You can't doubt on them out. They still had a great recruiting class. And I think we all know that DJ wasn't the guy, right? I think now that he's got his guy, we could see Clemson kind of get back to their normal helm here.
Yeah, and the quarterback that's taken over for DJ, it's not like he's just walking in with no experience. I mean,
Sure.
You and I talked about this a little bit off cast. Guy played half the season, right? They've still got Will Shipley, the running back that can do just about everything you ask him to do, from punts to running back to slot receiver to whatever. Just give the guy the damn ball. It seems like he touches it 40 times a game. So between Klubnik coming in, plenty of experience from last year, Will Shipley's still there, Dabo's going to Dabo. like they definitely have some momentum even with the transition that they've had.
Love it. Next, we've got our national champion. I guess want to say visitors. TCU coming in there at the 13th spot that we're looking at there. I think you had a little higher. I think I knocked it down. I came in, did a little bit of TLC, a little 10 or 11 care, and I knocked him down a little bit. I think with losing Max Duggan, and I think the way that they kind of took the L, it's going to really set them back a few, and so I don't see them lasting long, to be honest with you. I think they get railroaded by the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, agreed. Losing somebody like Duggan, nobody knew who he was going into the season, so
Sure.
maybe they've got another rabbit they can pull out of their hat, or maybe it's just a system that makes every quarterback look better than their actual skill set. But
yeah, that's going to be something that we have to figure out. Like, if that's what's going to help gauge, I think, moving forward where they sit too. Like, hey, is this a system thing? Is it a quarterback thing? Next, we've got the Netty Lions, Penn State, coming in at number 12. I believe I'm kind of doing math in my head.
Yep.
Again, I'm not really sold on these guys, but they never really went away last year. You know what I mean? It's a weird situation. I think they lost like 2 or 3 games, right? And I know one was at Ohio State. They just lost the big ones. So you have to put them up there because they finished 3rd essentially in the Big Ten for the most part. And I think that it's just they're not going to be anything flashy. They'll start there and end there. You know what I mean? But you can't not put him there. It's kind of how I look at it.
Sure, and I think that's exactly how it is, right? They're probably going to lose all of the major games. They're going to win all of the mid-level games, probably by 20 points. They are going through a quarterback change in Happy Valley as well, but they do have 2 stud running backs that both went for over 1,000 yards that I think they can rely on as they go through a transition. Again, to your point, 11-2, but never felt like they were going to be the team that was going to push to get into the playoffs or even the championship, for that matter. They couldn't even play for their conference championship, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just always a team that hovers around. They don't go away. They just don't ever actually go over the top either.
Yeah, they just do their job. They exist. So this one was a homer pick. I think you had them a lot lower than what I did. But I'm big on Texas, even though they just lost their running back, or Robinson, to the draft. I'm big on Quinn. I'm big on what Sarkisian's going to be able to do. And, look, this is a homer pick for sure. I was big on them last year. Again, I think that they have the ability to win the Big 12. With a little bit of luck last year, they could have been playing in the Big 12 championship, which would have been interesting to see them all go up against TCU. I think they can beat Bama this year. Should have beat them last year. I think it's going to be a fun one, and that's why I have them as high as at 11 as where they're at.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't mind an 11 just to see what Quinn Ewers' hairstyle is going to be this year, and if he comes back out with the mullet. I mean, that right there deserves an 11 spot. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I love that. Good job. Next, we got the old Notre Dame, which is an interesting one. I feel like coming in at number 10, Sam Hartman just makes that stock go up tremendously. This might be a little bit overkill, but I think you finish 8-4, right? Win the bowl game. You got Sam Hartman coming in. To be able to turn things around the way that they did with how it started with losing to Marshall, I think they started like 1-3 or something like that, and to just completely flip it around and win some big games, beat Clemson, and now you're getting the guy with Sam Hartman, who I think did a phenomenal job at Wake Forest. They're gonna be a bit of a threat, and I think that's why we got to put them in the top 10. IB Max says, "Can you speak louder? I'm getting in the shower." Yeah, we can do that.
Sure. Yeah. Anything for you, IB Mac. So look, the one thing I have kind of going against Notre Dame here is, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that where Alabama just took their offensive coordinator, like the 31-year-old guy? What Rees, I think his last name was. I believe that's where they hired him from. They went and took Notre Dame's offensive coordinator and brought him in. So with a new quarterback and I believe a new offensive coordinator, again, that's a lot of change in 1 year. I think Marcus Freeman's a good coach. I think he did a great job turning that season around, or at least holding on to it, not letting it get away from him after a pretty ugly start. But look, I mean, like with Hartman, the Hartman factor cannot be overstated. There's nothing to tell whether or not that guy can come in and change the culture and just the season by himself.
For sure. Next, we've got the Utes, right?
Okay.
The Utah Utes coming in. We got Rising coming back. This could like this. I think with these three right here with Texas, Notre Dame, you kind of flipped it around a little bit, but I think Utah should definitely be in a top 10. Running backs coming back. I know they're losing a tight end or a few tight ends, but I just think that with Cameron Rising coming back, with how they finished the year, winning the Pac-12, honestly, they don't lose to Florida. They could have been knocking on the door for a playoff bid, even though they lost 2 or 3, I believe, including the UF game. That loss to Florida really kind of knocked their whole entire season off the rails. They don't lose that game, they're in the conversation. So I don't think you could write them off as many as people will, even though they will start 0-1. Correct, Callie. I agree. I think it's going to be another one of those situations. What were they ranked this year when we played them? 13th or something? Or they were ranked 7th, weren't they?
Yeah, they're about where they are now in our ranking. They were in the top. They were around the top 10, I believe.
Yeah,
top 10 or 11.
So this is perfect. This is right where they need to be.
Sure. That way you can knock them off and
Exactly.
wear your crown proudly.
This next one sucks. That's all I got to say about that. You can go ahead and go, Steve.
Look, man, Tennessee told Clemson that it doesn't matter whether or not Hendon Hooker's on crutches or not. And look, I know everybody feels like that was a kind of a perfect storm of what they put together last year. Joe Milton showed he's the real deal. I think Josh Heupel is one hell of a coach and can do a lot of different things with an offense, regardless of what his talent level is. Tennessee's got a tough schedule. They got to play at the Swamp. But I do like what they've been putting together. And if they can find just a semblance of a defense this year, they could be able to pull a couple of games out that they let get past them last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you hate that, but it is.
Gator says we lost almost 50 viewers when you put Colorado in there. I knew that was going to happen. I honestly think they just went to go watch, which I hope they did, Gator Breakdown, because he's obviously with DJ Lago right now. Hopefully nobody else leaves us. But look, if you guys want to go watch that, I totally agree. Next we have Alabama. Now, this is going to be where it starts to get fun. This is where some people are going to disagree, but I think a lot of people have Bama in their top 5, which to me is an overkill with Bama. You lose Bryce Young. You get a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. You lose half of your line to the portal. I know you're Alabama and you got 18 more lined up, but who we have in front of them have got a lot of love coming back. And I'm just not so... look, you could almost even pluck Tennessee in front of Alabama. And this isn't a knock towards Bama, but obviously the brand of Bama and Nick Saban carries that rating every year, as it should. They rarely ever fall back. But look, I think it's a healthy pick. I don't think they'll be this low, but we talked about it, and we're going to explain why, who's ahead of them, and I think we have good reason to believe that. I'm just not sold on Bama right now. Even though, look, Evans Fernax says, hey, they're out for redemption. I don't disagree with you, but if we're taking, hey, what's coming in, what we were able to do, look, I think them having a phenomenal recruiting class, we may have overshot it a little bit because they have every 5-star in 2023 coming in. But does that make an impact right away to give you a top ranking? Right? I don't know. I don't believe that it does. And you'll see who's in front of them, and you guys will agree to disagree. But I think outside of maybe a school, I think this is a good spot for them.
Yeah, this is the first year that Alabama has gone into a football season without a real heir apparent at the quarterback position. Now, look, it seems like it doesn't matter who Alabama plugs into that role; they just continue to, do their roll tidy thing.
So, look, I think for the last 3 years, though, with Hurts, Mack, and Bryce, they've adjusted. They weren't really in that system era where it was like the prior to that with the A.J. McCarron. So, it's going to be interesting to see. It looks like he may be going back to that. I'm done with the superstar quarterback. We're going back to building the old way, and that'll be interesting to see how that transitions this year because I don't know who's coming in. I'm sure Bama fans do, but I don't know who it is.
It looks like it's down to Jalen Milroy and Ty Simpson. Neither names I have ever heard, and that's even watching some of the recruiting stuff go on. Maybe I didn't hear about them because I know that there was no shot that FSU was getting them, so I just didn't pay attention. But neither one of those names, I don't remember seeing these kids play any even mop-up duty throughout the season, which is usually kind of how you see some of these guys coming as the next guy.
Soon. Yeah.
Right.
And Johnny says they had the best recruiting class ever. They aren't slowing down, and I don't disagree with you. But going into next year, that class isn't going to have that much of an immediate impact. One, again, you'll see who's ahead of them, and you may agree or just not disagree, but I think who we have ahead of them is very reasonable. And we'll argue about it at the end. Let's wait. Let's get to the end. Let's keep moving. But next we have now this one in my opinion is a toss up. Is Ohio State and Bama. You could have really put either one of these here. I think with the receiving core at Ohio State, they're going to be phenomenal. Again, who's going to be the quarterback there? I think they have a couple 5 stars. To be fair, the quarterback room in Ohio State's been thick for a while, as it is in Alabama. This one you could really go back and forth. There really is no right or wrong here, in my opinion. So you can almost put them in a tie.
Yeah, they're like 5A and 5B. There's really no difference. They're both going through the same transition. They both have a power running game. They both have a ton of talent that they can rely on. So look, there's really no difference between these two teams, especially considering that they're going through very similar circumstances and trying to get the product on the field for next year. But in both situations, a lot of the brand recognition of Ohio State consistently being good over the last 5 to 8 years, 10 years, Bama being good for the last decade, a lot of that is kind of what's propelling them up here. We got to see what they're going to do. Bama's backup quarterback, the guy that I saw come out there and trot on the field a few times, didn't look very good. So I don't know a lot about Ohio State, but again, Ohio State's going to do kind of what Bama does, and that's just keep on rolling.
Sure, exactly. That's why it's the same person in my opinion. Now, this next one here, guys, I know Steve's an FSU fan, but he had this FSU lower than 5. I said, hey, I think they deserve to be in the 5th spot. I think, again, what they were able to do in the portal with Jordan Travis coming back, out of who they are in front of right now, they're the only one with a returning quarterback right now, right? In a conference that's pretty much wide open. Okay, you're coming off a bowl win, obviously against Oklahoma. You just got the number 1 tight end in the portal. You got the number 1 or the second cornerback behind Travis Hunter in the portal. So you're making moves in all the right places. The wide receiver core looked pretty healthy last year. I think it got a little bit stronger this year, and Norvell just signed his extension. All these things, right, are looking to be good for. Look, I hate seeing this, but this is what people are going to be looking at. Except Utah, Notre Dame has a new quarterback. Tennessee has a new quarterback. Bama has a new quarterback, as is Ohio State. On top of other situations with Bama with the coordinators, I think that's where Ohio State kind of gets the edge for Bama. Nothing really changed much at Florida State. They just kind of added a few pieces and got a little bit better. And after finishing 10-3 with bowl game, I feel like that's big for them.
Sure. Look, this is the first time that as an FSU fan, I've had extremely cautious optimism. Now it's more of a situation.
This is where you piss me off. You should come in here and say, yeah, suck it, okay? We're back, baby.
No, I'm not saying that.
No,
I'm not saying that because we're not. Look, after this year, I'll say.
Let me go. No, this is where Steve and I butt heads because I hate that's pussy shit. All right, you have a team that's in the top 5. I gave you so much shit last year because I was like, yo, FSU sucks. Like, I would be like frustrated if I were you, and then all of a sudden here you are. You go 10-3. We got you in the top 5 for preseason. Own your shit. Don't sit back.
I own it. I'm super happy about it. Don't get me wrong.
Let me fucking finish. Don't sit back and be like, no, I'm skeptic of it because you're afraid that if they don't do well, that you're gonna get shit. You're gonna get shit either way. You know that. If they lose or win, if they lose, you're gonna get shit whether you talk shit or not. So you might as well own it while you can and hold the dick out and be like, yo, what's up? We coming, baby. You know what I'm saying? Own that shit. You're top 5 right now, big dog, and you should. LSU is going to be fun. That's going to be a big game 1 for you guys. Where look, that's where I think you're cautious because you know that game could turn into an L, and now the whole top 5 goes down the drain pretty quickly. But if you win, I know your drunk ass is going to hop on the stream running your damn mouth. So I need you to own this shit right now, okay, and not wait until they win and then run your mouth. You got to take it now. And if you win, you could double down. I'm okay with you doubling down, but I can't have you being a pansy ass about it now. And then I see you 6 months from now talking your shit. So if you cower it out now, you're not allowed to talk shit. But if you own it,
all right,
I'm all for it. So reset and as you work.
All right. 11-1, we make the playoffs. Jordan Heisman's at least has a seat at the Heisman ceremony. I didn't say he wins it. I don't say he hoists the trophy. I say he's at least got a seat. We lose one game, and we get to the playoffs.
That's what I'm fucking talking about. That's college football, boys. Lock it in, okay?
Let's go.
All right?
Now I'm pumped.
This is what we're doing, bro. We show up on Wednesday to fucking just blow each other, okay? No, this isn't shower time. This isn't shower time with Shelton, boys, okay? Lock it in and wake the fuck up. I know y'all sleeping over there. Let's go, okay? Y'all pissed off on the Colorado.
He needs us to speak up. It's shower time for, what was his name? He said speak up. I'm in the shower.
Oh, IB Mac.
Yeah, that's it.
FSU versus Georgia for the Natty. There you go, Holly. See, let's talk your shit.
There you go.
Who's the one lost to?
Coach.
Florida? That's who your one loss to is?
LSU or Clemson. It'll happen early enough in the year that it won't completely derail the season.
Gator versus anybody says Lagway's favorite uni is the all blue with the orange helmets. Are you watching the Gator Dave podcast? I love it. He's going to be on Friday, boys. We're going to have DJ on Friday for Madden, so make sure you guys tune into that.
Versus Georgia for the natty. There you go, Holy.
There you go, baby. Travis says that was lit. Let's
That
go. All
was you,
right,
man.
number 4, we have USC. And I don't think a lot of people have USC up there at this high, but you got the Heisman coming back. You lose Jordan Addison. I understand that. I think they did a phenomenal job, added some great pieces to the offensive line, being from Florida. Lincoln does what he does in the transfer portal. He didn't do horrible in recruiting as well. I think they finished second behind Oregon, I think in 13th overall, which is good for them. I've kind of talked before where he's been lazy on recruiting. I think they have some nasty wide receivers coming in the recruiting class. And he did a little bit of work on defense. Not much. Don't need to do much, but they did do some work on defense. So I think USC, I was high on USC last year. I hate Caleb Williams, but I like Lincoln Riley. I think, again, USC is good for college football when they are good. I want them to be good. It's fun when they're good. And I think they're a good top 4.
Yeah, I like it. Look, I mean, when you're bringing back a Heisman Trophy winner, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier. You've got to have talent at the quarterback position to win at a high level. They certainly have that. USC is going to have talent, even just recruiting out of the state of California. So, good spot for them. I think they've got. You've got the ability to bounce back after that Cotton Bowl loss to Tulane. But look,
sure.
Lincoln Riley, he's been a machine at Oklahoma for years. He's going to do similar things, if not better, out at USC.
I don't see USC in a lot of top 4s, but when he was in Oklahoma was top 4, top 5 every year. Why? Because Lincoln Riley. And I think, again, the Pac-12 is going to be stronger this year. But, again, phenomenal job in the portal, phenomenal job in recruiting. It's still Lincoln Riley. You still have your Heisman quarterback coming back. That's healthy shit right there. Right now, the next remaining team, there's 3 teams left. 2 of them have their quarterback coming back, which is massive. One of them does not. But we'll see how it plays out. But I think having a Heisman candidate or winner come back to your team, and we saw what he's able to do. I mean, that Tulane game, I don't care about that game. The Utah game is the one that I would be frustrated about if I'm a USC fan. They should have won that game. That game was lost on defense. I don't put that on Caleb Williams' shoulders at all. And I think another year under Lincoln Riley, under that offense, the second year going to USC, they're hungry, they're motivated, they're dialed in. Even though the Pac-12 is going to be thick, I think they run it for sure.
I like that.
All right, let's next we've got, it's going to piss some people off, pisses me off, but LSU's number 3. I don't know. I mean, look.
That was my little surprise for you when we went over this in precast. Yep. I threw LSU out there at number 3. Again, you've got a coach that got a lot of slack after that FSU game, a lot of flack after that FSU game. Jaden Daniels, they all had a lot of egg on their face out in LSU, but they turned around, they beat Bama, they play for the SEC championship. They're bringing back Jaden Daniels. Again, they've got a little bit of revenge on their shoulder still with that opening game against FSU down in Orlando. Like, I think a lot of things were lining up for LSU, not to mention the turmoil that they went through with Keyshawn Booty and some of these other guys. It wasn't really that big of a deal, but yeah. They overplayed it a little bit, but I mean, they were able to keep it together, right? The train didn't go off the tracks, and they had a pretty fantastic season when all things were said and done. And I think they're a better team this year to me than they were last year, especially with an extra year under the belt for these guys.
F as Fanatic says what? Because so Keyshawn Booty is going to the NFL, which is a big loss. However, again, if we look at their season last year, you get blown up by Georgia. Georgia was on an absolute mission. I don't care about that game. They had an ugly loss to Texas A&M, right? That was their ugly loss, which basically blew it for them at the end there.
At the very end, yep.
Yeah. Outside, I mean, that was ugly. The FSU game, you really can't hold that to them. And it seems like a crazy pick, but it's not. Now, I wouldn't put Ohio State and Bama due to the fact of what they've lost. You still got Brian Kelly, right? LSU, who is winning the East. Look, they very well might. Look, I know we have Georgia at number 1. I'm not gonna. Let's go ahead and just get that out of the way, right? But I think that quarterback, whoever played quarterback for Georgia, there's a big what if there. I think Kirby's done a phenomenal job, but I don't think look. I could be wrong. I might eat my words, and Stetson Bennett was just, a fill-in guy, and anybody can take that position. But I don't think that was the case. And I think Georgia's gonna take the L to LSU. I think Georgia has 2 or 3 losses next year. I think one of them to be in Tennessee, one being LSU, and the other being in Florida, of course. But we'll see. The only 3 next to LSU is 3 dudes and a recruiting coin. Okay. All right, Cody. Cody's feeling himself. Next, we have Michigan. Again, quarterback's coming back. You got Harbaugh coming back. I hate to put them up there, but I know they got their ass kicked against TCU, and I understand that.
The only 3 next to LSU is 3 dudes and a recruiting coordinator.
Oh, I love this. I love this show.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So let me go and put Georgia up there too and get that out of the way because I feel like these two aren't really that crazy. Yeah, Georgia obviously being number 1. I don't think you really moved them too much, even though with the loss of Stetson Bennett, it's their place to lose. I don't think they even drop out of the number 1 spot for a while because of their schedule. You think Stetson will be a fill-in? If Stetson's a fill-in, then Georgia has a great opportunity to win again. And here's my reasoning why. Because look what we just talked about. Everything we just discussed, right? Oh, Alabama is in a weird place. I understand, Saban does a great job. His recruiting class is fantastic. They're in he said the year before was a rebuild year. This past year was not supposed to be. This year is a rebuild year. I don't care what anybody says. So you've been rebuilding for the last 3 years, which is still good in most standards. Not in Saban standards, but in most standards, it's pretty damn good. Tennessee is probably going to be good. I think they're still lightning in the bottle. So I think Georgia beats Tennessee. I really do. LSU is going to be the real competition. So Georgia more than likely makes a playoff again. Now, that's where things get a little interesting because I think USC is going to be good. I think FSU has an opportunity to go to the playoffs. And that 4th spot right now, honestly, is open for anybody. Michigan, it could be what we're looking at. Georgia, Michigan, USC, and Florida State. That could be the Final 4. Or Ohio State. Ohio State, Michigan. I think that spot's always kind of like who wants it more. There really is no rhyme or reason. So I think I see USC getting it done this year. I really do. I don't see Lincoln Riley not making it to the Final 4. And that FSU spot could be, one that gets flipped around. I hope it is, obviously. But look, Georgia could do it again. Now things could change all the way, but I disagree, Sean. You had a great take on Brady this year with the same logic. What do you disagree with, Andrew?
Yeah, look, I mean, so Georgia's obviously, if it turns out to be that Stetson Bennett wasn't the guy, I think Uncle Lou was even ragging on the guy a couple of times mid-season around that Kent State
game. The mailman.
Yeah. So look, if that's the case, and the real superstar at the quarterback position is on the bench right now for Georgia, and we haven't seen him yet, Katie bar the door. This thing's over. We need Stetson Bennett to turn out to be the man, or else we may as well just go ahead and hand Kirby the trophy if that's the case.
So here's the thing. What's funny is because when I talked about Stetson having some success in the NFL, I got a lot of flack for him being too tiny. Okay? I learned today. I didn't realize this. Bryce Young. I'm going to type him up here. I think he's 6 foot. He's 6 foot on the dot. That's probably depending on what convenience store he's walking out of. He's not that big either. Stetson's 5'11". So it's not like this kid's like a towering stud over Stetson. And he weighs 194 pounds. I weigh 190 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not like this big stature dude either. But he's getting a lot more praise than Stetson Bennett by being 2 inches taller. That's crazy to me. Now, Bryce Young can sling it. I agree. He can sling a football. I can't say that he can't. I think he can sling the hell out of football. So obviously, I'm not saying they're the same person. But the biggest flack that I got was size. Well, Bryce Young's not some towering beast,
Right. He's no Richardson. I mean, he played well. He can read a defense, and he has the arm to get the ball where he needs to get it to. I think he definitely has a stronger arm than Stetson in that regard. Don't get me wrong. Stetson can fling the ball too, but it felt like Bryce Young was the more natural quarterback, and Stetson Bennett beat you because he's been playing at college since, Moses and the Tide and all. He's been there for a minute.
Andrew says there will be 4 different teams in the playoff next year, meaning like we won't see your typical Bama, Georgia. And it says, LOL, Georgia will be good being in the nation's chaos. Nation something. And he goes, about LSU winning the West and Georgia being good again. Logic just because you think they will. I don't know what that means, but if Georgia can get a 5-star elite quarterback, watch out. It's over for a while. I mean, they're in the run for what's his face? Dylan, the number 1 quarterback, who was a 5-star for the 2024 class. So I think they've got a couple 5-stars chilling. I think Georgia has a 5-star in their saddle on the bench.
I mean, how do they not? Right?
They've got. I know the kid coming in is a 4-star. Like they don't have me and Steve back there. Georgia's got guys. Trust me.
Trying to take a peek at their class the last couple of years here
in recruiting. Andrew's a hot take.
Yeah.
I'm losing you, Andrew, buddy. I don't know. You're trying to I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say. You look at the
Gunnar Stockton, a 4-star kid they got in 2022. That's one. I kind of remember that name. He didn't get a lot of coverage because he committed, if I'm not mistaken, like when he was like 10. So nobody really covered him and gave him much publicity. Brock Vandegrift, I do remember that name. 5-star guy sitting there. There.
just waiting. I told you that.
Yeah.
Never a doubt on that one, boys. No worries. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, Andrew. You're good, Bubba. I'm just trying to make sure I get what you're trying to say to us. So, look, good show. I hope you guys. I lost myself. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed the new setup. I know I had a great time with you guys as usual. I know Florida's getting their ass kicked in basketball, which is disappointing to hear. But right now, I know Gators Breakdown is having an interview with DJ Lagway, so go check that out. We will have DJ Lagway live on the show Friday to play Madden. A little fun, different little pizzazz there. Tomorrow, we may do a live call-in show. We'll see. Again, there's not much to really kind of yell about right now, but I had a good time talking to you guys and, having a conversation. So see how we're doing and how busy we are tomorrow. But enjoy you guys as usual. Again, we'll be live Friday with DJ Lagway playing Madden. We'll be live Saturday from 12 to 2:30 in Gainesville. We're talking within all kinds of weather, so we're going to team up with them there. And then also a lot of players. I know Mizuka's going to be there. I know Etienne's going to be there. I think Big Dez is going to be there. Some studs. And I'm going to work on getting a mini helmet sign, which we're going to give away as well. A lot of big stuff coming up. So make sure you guys, if you're not subscribed, let's see if we hit 11,000 subs real quick before I go.
Ooh.
Did we hit it, Steve? What do you think? We were like 8 away.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go.
You think we got it done?
Class is full. I think so. Let's see this. 10K9. 10K9 people?
Oh, we didn't get a single sub while we were streaming. We're still 8 away. All right. Well, anyway.
As a matter of fact, we probably went backwards.
Yeah, probably did. We probably did. All right, boys. Thanks for hopping by as always. Until next time, I'll see you guys.
All right, guys. Woo!
BDE, baby.
I just wish I had this pain you already know. Turn that to gains, let my money show. I've got these things that I can't let go. Watch me turn this life into something that you could never own. I feel this pain you already know.